everyone, it's Bogey and I checking in for chapter 3 of The Worst Witch, All at Sea. So last time we left Mildred about to go to the kitchen to take Tabby down to be a mouse catcher, even though he doesn't like mice and he's scared of mice, because Miss Cackle wanted her to have a regulation black cat so that it might help her with her studies, but Mildred wasn't very happy about it. So let's jump in and see what happens. So chapter 3, here's a picture of Mildred heading down to the basement. So the kitchen was in the basement of the school. It was reached by several long, dark corridors and a narrow staircase. It took about half an hour to get there from the dining hall, which explained why the food was always stone cold. "Now, don't be scared, Tabby," Mildred sobbed into the little cat's rumpled fur. "I'll work out a plan to get you back with me again. I'll sneak down and give you extra training sessions so you'll get better at flying, and perhaps I could make you a little black coat to hide the stripes." I don't know why they're being so funny about that now, after all this time. They gave you to me in the first place. It's not fair. There was a great activity in the kitchen, which, because of its gigantic range, was mercifully warm. Over the range bubbled huge cauldrons of the atrocious porridge to be served for the girls' breakfast after assembly. Mildred stood, unnoticed, in the doorway, watching the 4 undercooks charging about. Miss Tapioca, a large person proportioned very much like a cottage loaf, with white hair bundled into a hairnet, sat at one end of the 15-foot-long kitchen table, looking up a recipe. "Ah, Mildred Hubble," she said, glancing up and seeing the bedraggled Mildred lurking in the shadows. "Have you brought our new mouser? Come and show it to us, girl. Don't just stand there staring." Here she is, as round as a cottage loaf. Mildred brought Tabby out from beneath her cloak and held him up. The 4 undercooks had gathered round as well, and they all tickled him on top of his head and smoothed his wind-blown fur. "Just right for a mouser," said Miss Tapioca, "and here is Ebony in exchange. Much too intelligent and well-trained to be wasted in the kitchen. Well, put the cat down, Mildred, unless you want to stay with him and catch mice yourself." She handed Mildred the basket. There she is. Mildred could see a pair of brilliant green eyes gazing at her from the shadow inside. Tabby, nicely warmed up by the hot kitchen, had retreated to his favourite position round Mildred's neck. There was nothing else to be done, except to take the basket and go. "May I come and visit him?" asked Mildred, her voice quivering as she uncurled Tabby from her neck and placed him in Miss Tapioca's arms. "I don't think that would be very sensible, Mildred," said Miss Tapioca, holding Tabby in a very tight grip as the little cat was grimly trying to get back onto Mildred's shoulders. "He will be much too busy chasing mice to spare any time for visitors. Off you go, and take care of Ebony. Now, that really is a cat to be proud of. You'll forget this little scruff in 5 minutes when she's been out flying with a cat like Ebony. Listen! Oh, there's the bell for assembly. You better hurry." As Miss Tapioca taping Tabby. Tabby doesn't look very happy at all. Mildred left the kitchen without looking back. She could hear Tabby yowling desperately as he tried to follow her. She dived up the stairs, 2 at a time, ran to her room, dumped her suitcase, broomstick and the cat basket, and sprinted the last few corridors to join Maud and Enid marching into the great hall. "Hello, Mill," said Enid. What's wrong? What's the matter, Mildred? Asked Maud. You look as if something ghastly's happened. It has, said Mildred, bursting into tears as quietly as possible. Bearing in mind the fact that they were on their way into assembly. I'll tell you about it later. After assembly, during which Miss Cackle announced that lunch break would be in the Great Hall instead of the yard because the snow was already several feet thick, the girls trooped off to their form rooms to be greeted by their form mistresses. Mildred's form were unfortunate enough to be presided over by Miss Hardbroom, the most terrifying mistress in the school. She was a genius at reducing her pupils to a gibbering heap with one withering glance. No one ever dreamed of passing a note or giggling or even speaking unless asked a question during Mrs. Hardbroom's lessons. On the way to class, Mildred managed to tell Enid and Maud the sad news about Tabby. Miss Hardbroom was sitting bolt upright behind her desk, waiting for the girls to settle as they all filed into the room and took their places, arranging books and writing equipment in their desks. The room was only fractionally warmer than outside, and the girls discreetly rubbed their feet and blew on their hands in a futile attempt to warm themselves up. "Come along now, girls," said Miss Hardbroom. "Stop all this silly nonsense. It isn't that cold. Lunch break isn't far away, and then you can all run briskly around the Great Hall to get yourselves nice and warm. Anyway, girls, welcome back for the summer term. Mildred Hubble, what is the matter now?" Mildred looked at her feet, embarrassed by the tears which she could not stop from rolling down her cheeks. "It's her cat, Miss Hardbroom," said Maud. "Miss Cackle sent it to be a kitchen mouser, and Mildred's got Fenella fever fuse because Fenella left it behind when she left last term." Here's Maud, speaking up for her best friend, as all good best friends do. "Well, Mildred," said Miss Hardbroom, "I don't know what you're crying for. I would have seen it more as a cause for celebration if I was you. Fenella's cat is an absolute credit to the school. I hope we shall soon see a marked improvement in your flying without the nuisance of a tabby. Sit down and pull yourself together at once." "I have an announcement to make, girls," she continued, "which should cheer Mildred up considerably. Mr. Rowan Webb, the magician Mildred rescued from the school pond last term, has written and asked if Mildred and her form would like to spend a week at his home by the sea during the summer term by way of a thank you to Mildred." There were gasps of delight from the girls, who all turned to Mildred with joyous comments. "It seems that we all have you to thank for this little treat," said Miss Hardbroom, making it sound as if Mildred had done something wrong. Mildred didn't know whether to smile or look solemn. Here she is, looking very confused. "Goodness me, girl," said Miss Hardbroom, noting Mildred's anxious face. "Surely the thought of a week at the seaside is a cheering thought." Oh, yes, Miss Hardbroom," sniffed Mildred. "It's cheered me up very much. But I was wondering if I could bring Tabby with me as a little break from the kitchen. I wondered if it would—" Her voice trailed away as she saw Miss Hardbroom's eyebrow arch into a slant like a poised spear. There was no point in continuing. Mildred stared down at her feet and tried to look suitably pleased about the holiday, which was difficult when you were trying not to cry. Maud sneaked a hand under Mildred's desk and squeezed her friend's arm. They both knew that a holiday would be no fun at all with Tabby left behind in the kitchen, all the time wondering why Mildred didn't come to collect him. And that's the end of chapter 3. Gosh, poor Mildred, whisked away without Tabby. And here's Tabby by the pots and pans, not looking very happy at all. Gosh, I'd like a break by the sea right now. So would Bogey, although I think we'd have a bit of a nightmare if we tried to put sun cream on him, so best not. Sending you all the love in the world, and I can't wait for chapter 4. This is ace. Lots of love. Bye bye.